In a quiet village, there lived a woman who had everything: beauty, wealth, and a heart full of kindness. Men came from far and wide to marry her, but she chose only one, a stranger. And that choice changed her life forever. Amara was the kind of woman whose presence made the wind slow down, as though even nature wished to admire her longer. In the village of Omokoro, where the earth was red and the palm trees stood like silent guardians, her beauty was spoken of in whispers and songs alike. But it was not her face alone that captured hearts. It was her spirit. She greeted elders with bowed respect, shared her food with strangers, and walked barefoot through the market so she could stop and help anyone in need. The villagers often said she carried her father's soul inside her, a man whose kindness had once fed the hungry and clothed the poor. Her father, Chief Okafor, had been the wealthiest man the village had ever known, yet no one remembered him for his riches. They remembered how he paid school fees for children who were not his, how he rebuilt homes after storms, and how he settled disputes with wisdom that felt almost divine. When he died, the entire village mourned as though the sun itself had fallen from the sky. In his will, he left everything: lands, houses, businesses in distant Lagos, to his only daughter, Amara. Many expected her to become proud, distant, unreachable, but instead, she became even more generous, as if her father's legacy might fade if she did not carry it forward. Suitors came like rivers in the rainy season, young men with strong arms, wealthy traders, even titled chiefs from neighboring villages. They brought gifts of goats, yams, gold beads, and promises of comfort. Yet Amara turned them all away with a gentle smile that broke more hearts than harsh words ever could. She would say, "I will know my husband when I see him. He will not just want my beauty or my wealth, he will see me." And so the village waited, wondering what kind of man could possibly meet the standard of a woman like Amara. The day he arrived, the village felt different, though no one could explain why. The stranger came in a polished car that stirred dust like a restless spirit, his clothes sharp, his shoes too clean for village soil. His name was Obinna, and he spoke with the confidence of a man who had seen the world beyond rivers and forests. He claimed he had come from Lagos for business and curiosity to see the beauty of the village life he had only heard about. The elders welcomed him warmly, for strangers were still treated as guests, and guests were gifts from the gods. The following morning, the elders began showing Obinna around the village when Obinna's eyes found Amara before anyone could introduce them. She was by the stream, helping a young girl fetch water, her wrapper tied simply, her laughter light as wind chimes. For a moment, he forgot the purpose of his visit, forgot even himself. He approached her with a smile that seemed practiced, yet convincing enough to melt suspicion. Their first conversation was brief, but something lingered in the air afterward. A tension, a curiosity, a spark that neither of them could fully name. In the days that followed, Obinna made himself a regular part of Amara's world. He walked with her through the market, listened to her stories, and spoke of Lagos like it was a land of endless opportunity and glittering dreams. He admired her kindness, praised her humility, and told her she was unlike any woman he had ever met. Amara, who had turned away so many before him, found herself listening a little longer, smiling a little wider, and wondering, perhaps this was the man she had been waiting for. Trust does not fall from the sky. It grows slowly, like a seed nurtured by time and attention. Obinna knew this well, and he watered the soil of Amara's heart with careful precision. He helped her distribute food to widows, assisted in repairing broken huts, and sat with the elders as though he had always belonged. The villagers began to speak well of him, calling him a man of good character, a city man with a village heart. Even those who were naturally suspicious found themselves lowering their guard. Amara began to open up in ways she never had before. She spoke of her father, his laughter, his teachings, the weight of his legacy resting on her shoulders. She told Obinna about the properties in Lagos she had never fully explored, about her fears of leaving the village and her uncertainty about the future. Obinna listened with an intensity that made her feel seen, understood, cherished. When he held her hand for the first time, it felt less like a bold move and more like a natural continuation of something that had already begun. But not everyone was convinced. Ifunanya, Amara's closest friend since childhood, watched everything with quiet concern. She noticed the way Obinna's eyes sometimes lingered, not with love, but calculation. She saw how quickly he adapted, how perfectly he fit into every situation, like a man wearing different masks. One evening, as they sat beneath the moonlight, Ifunanya finally spoke her mind. "Be careful, Amara," she said softly. "Not every smile is safe." But Amara only laughed gently, brushing off the warning as fear of the unknown, unaware that some storms begin as whispers. Obinna knew the right time to push forward, and he chose it with precision. One evening, as the sky burned orange and gold, he spoke to Amara about Lagos, not as a distant city, but as a future waiting for them. He described a life where her properties would flourish, where they could build something even greater than what her father had left behind. He spoke of modern houses, thriving businesses, and a life of influence that extended beyond the village. His words painted pictures so vivid that Amara could almost see herself living them. At first, she hesitated. The village was not just a place. It was her identity, her roots, her father's memory. Leaving it felt like abandoning a part of herself. But Obinna was patient. He reassured her, told her they would always return, that her love for the village did not have to end just because her life expanded. Slowly, her resistance softened, replaced by a cautious excitement. The idea of building a new life with him began to feel less like a risk and more like destiny. When Amara finally told Ifunanya about her decision, the reaction was immediate and fierce. "This is not right," Ifunanya insisted, her voice trembling with urgency. "You barely know this man. Lagos is not like here. People change there." But Amara, now deeply entangled in Obinna's promises, refused to see the danger. She said gently, "He loves me." And in that moment, a crack formed, not just in their friendship, but in the foundation of Amara's once unshakable certainty. The day Amara left the village was filled with both celebration and quiet sorrow. The elders prayed for her journey, women sang farewell songs, and children ran after the car as it slowly disappeared into the distance. Amara looked back one last time, her heart heavy with emotion, yet hopeful for the future ahead. Obinna sat beside her, holding her hand, his expression calm, reassuring, unchanged. If there were storms hidden beneath that calm, she could not see them. The journey to Lagos was long, stretching across landscapes that shifted from green fields to crowded roads and towering buildings. When they finally arrived, Amara was overwhelmed. The noise, the movement, the endless stream of people, it was unlike anything she had ever known. Lagos was alive in a way that felt both exciting and intimidating. Obinna guided her through it all, his confidence acting as her anchor in the chaos. Their new home was beautiful, far more luxurious than anything in the village. For a while, everything felt perfect. Obinna was attentive, affectionate, and proud to show her off to his friends. They attended gatherings, explored the city, and spoke endlessly about the future they would build together. But beneath the surface of this new life, something subtle had begun to shift, something Amara could not yet name but would soon come to fear. At first, the change was so small that Amara almost dismissed it as imagination. Obinna began coming home later than usual, offering excuses that sounded reasonable but felt strangely hollow. Business meetings stretched into midnight, phone calls were taken in hushed tones behind closed doors, and his once warm laughter became rare, replaced by a distant silence that lingered between them like an unseen wall. Amara told herself it was the stress of the city, the pressure of managing everything at once, but deep inside, a quiet unease began to root. One evening, she waited for him long after the food had gone cold. When he finally arrived, the scent of unfamiliar perfume clung to his clothes, sharp and undeniable. Amara's heart tightened, but she forced herself to remain calm. "You are late," she said softly, searching his face for something, anything that still resembled the man she had fallen for. Obinna barely looked at her as he shrugged off his jacket. "Walk," he replied shortly, his tone carrying a hint of irritation. That single word felt heavier than any explanation, and it landed between them like a stone. That night, Amara lay awake, staring into the darkness as questions circled her mind like restless spirits. She wanted to believe in him, to hold on to the version of Obinna she knew in the village, the man who listened, who cared, who made her feel safe. But something had shifted, and no matter how tightly she held on to hope, she could feel it slipping through her fingers. For the first time, she wondered if Ifunaya's warning had not been fear, but truth. One Monday morning, the conversation came unexpectedly, wrapped in calm words and gentle persuasion. Obinna spoke of security, of trust, of building a future without complications. He explained that managing all her properties under her name alone was risky, that transferring ownership to him would make things easier, safer, more efficient. His voice was smooth, convincing, and laced with just enough urgency to make resistance feel like doubt. And doubt, he implied, had no place in love. Amara hesitated. Something about the request unsettled her, though she could not fully explain why. Her father's voice echoed faintly in her memory, words about caution, about understanding the weight of what one gives away. But Obinna noticed her silence and quickly filled it with reassurance. "Do you trust me?" he asked, his eyes locking onto hers with an intensity that felt almost demanding. The question hung in the air, heavy with expectation. In that moment, Amara made a choice that would alter the course of her life forever. She nodded. The documents were signed in an office that smelled of ink and indifference, witnessed by strangers who did not know the story behind the signatures. With each stroke of her pen, she handed over not just land and buildings, but pieces of her father's legacy, pieces of herself. When it was done, Obinna smiled, a slow, satisfied smile that did not quite reach his eyes. And though Amara tried to ignore it, something deep within her whispered that she had just crossed a line she could never return from. The transformation was not gradual this time. It was sudden, sharp, undeniable. The man who once spoke to her with tenderness now addressed her with impatience, his words often laced with irritation or outright contempt. He no longer asked about her day, no longer sat beside her to share meals or laughter. Instead, he moved through the house like a stranger who had no obligation to explain himself. The warmth that once filled their home began to fade, replaced by a cold tension that made every room feel unfamiliar. Obinna's nights out became more frequent, his excuses less convincing. There were whispers, neighbors mentioning seeing him with different women, laughter echoing from cars that were not hers, shadows of a life she was not part of. When Amara finally gathered the courage to confront him, his reaction was explosive. "You think you can question me?" he snapped, his voice rising like a storm. "After everything I've done for you?" The accusation struck her like a slap, twisting reality until she began to question herself instead. The first time he hit her, the world seemed to stop. It was not just the pain, it was the disbelief, the shattering of everything she thought she knew. She stood frozen, her cheek burning, her heart pounding in confusion and fear. Obinna stared at her for a moment as if surprised by his own action, but instead of remorse, his expression hardened. "Don't ever disrespect me again," he said coldly. And in that moment, Amara realized that the man she had followed to Lagos was no longer the man standing before her, if he had ever been at all. Days turned into weeks, and Amara's world grew smaller with each passing moment. Obinna began setting rules, subtle at first, then strict and suffocating. She was not to leave the house without his permission. She was not to answer calls he did not approve of. She was not to question his movements, his actions, or his absences. What had once been a home became a cage, its walls invisible but unbreakable. Her attempts to reach out to Ifunanya were met with resistance. Her phone was often taken from her, her messages deleted before they could be sent. Letters she wrote were never posted, disappearing as though swallowed by the very house she lived in. Isolation wrapped around her like a tightening rope, cutting her off from the world she once knew. The laughter that once defined her was gone, replaced by silence and fear. Yet, even in that darkness, a small part of Amara refused to die. It lived in her memories of the village, of her father, of the life she had once lived freely. It whispered to her in quiet moments, reminding her that this was not who she was meant to be. But each time that spark tried to grow, Obinna's presence crushed it, his control tightening until even hope began to feel dangerous. Back in the village, Ifunanya could not shake the feeling that something was wrong. The silence from Amara was unnatural, heavy with meaning. Weeks had passed without a single message, a single sign that her friend was well. While others dismissed it as the busyness of city life, Ifunanya knew better. Amara was not the kind of person to forget where she came from or who she loved. Determined to find answers, Ifunanya began asking questions, speaking to traders who traveled to Lagos, searching for any trace of her friend. What she had unsettled her deeply. Rumors of a man living lavishly, hosting parties, surrounded by women, his wealth growing rapidly. The description matched Obinna too closely to ignore. Fear tightened in her chest, but it was quickly replaced by resolve. One night, under the same moon that once witnessed their laughter, Ifunanya made a decision. She would go to Lagos herself. She would find Amara no matter what it took. Because some friendships are stronger than distance, stronger than silence, and stronger even than the darkness that tries to swallow them whole. Lagos did not welcome Ifunanya gently. It swallowed her whole.